No, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Which one are you in? Because it's showing me. Let's see. It's showing me with 3 different lives right now. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. What in the world did I do? Let's see. Well, it shows that I am live. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And it's not mixing the chats together. Hi, Kelly. How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, I don't know what I need. I need help, Bear. I don't know what's going on. Is the one that you entered on, does it have the thumbnail of Nancy Guthrie in the background, or does it just have the Claws and Crime background? Because it made me make a new one because of my title. Apparently, it doesn't like the word ransom. So technology, I swear. So what I need to do. This is why I can't be trusted for anything, really. The vertical one? Okay. And then there I am right there. Yeah, as soon as I will pop my face up as soon as I get all this stuff done. Where I figure out. I just want to make sure. See, that one must be the one. I need to delete one is what I need to do. Because one of them is live. Okay. So then. You know what? I'm just going to leave it for right now. Just let it do its thing. Because I don't want to mess anything up. So that's what we'll do. And let me see. What's that? Alrighty. Let me put a little music on while I. Make sure I've got everything going. Yeah, that's just what I'll do. I'll just keep it on this. That way I know everybody can hear me, and then whatever one has 0 views, then I will. I'll delete that one. Because StreamYard, it was being a jerk. It would not let me put it wouldn't let me put Ransom in the title. It was doing that to me a couple weeks ago when I was trying to put oh, no problem. But no, it was doing that when I was trying to put Sheriff Nanos' name in something the other, like, couple weeks ago. It wouldn't let me. So what I might have to do is like go back and do a title after the live stream. But it said YouTube, so who knows. But thanks for coming in and helping me out, Bear. Since I am an absolute mess of a person tonight. Excuse me, everything's a mess. My hair's a mess. My office is a mess. But that's all right, right? Nothing's ever perfect all the time. So, here I am. You can see me with my crazy hair and my crazy office and my crazy everything. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming in. I was just going to say I wasn't going to be real late today, but I always say that and then I end up being on here forever. But I did want to go through some stuff just because we've got some updates and some different things. And any of you that have been here from the start of all this, we started with the Nancy Guthrie case back in February, and there really hasn't been much going on. But the past couple days, there's been a lot of hubbub about these ransom notes. And a second. There. I like that color better. My fancy dancy new microphones. You guys can all hear me. But and I don't know. It's really, really odd. You know, TMZ came out with yesterday saying that the notes that they got, they weren't talking about the ransom notes though. So first he's talking about the notes that they got after the ransom notes that were from that random person that wanted money to be able to try and tell them where she was at, but didn't want to get involved with the police. They said they had a record, yada, yada. And Harvey swore that no one ever said anything about her being dead or anything like that. And I was kind of confused because I thought that was exactly what they were alluding to in that second note. The one where Savannah had asked, said that she would pay. So tonight I wanted to go over that. And but first, just a quick update in case anyone that doesn't know. Elena Moore. We were also following that. I've got something to show to go over about that later, but I did just want to say quickly, I found this article in Fitz News and it explains exactly what was found in the autopsy. Most of you know that there really wasn't anything found. This is from Fitz News. It says, days after searchers discovered the body of a woman later identified as missing Lexington, South Carolina resident Elena Catherine Moore, a forensics autopsy failed to identify an immediate cause of death. On Monday, June 22nd, 2026, Lexington County Coroner Margaret Fisher released the preliminary findings from an autopsy conducted over the weekend at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, South Carolina. According to Fisher, the MUSC autopsy found no evidence of any traumatic injury and offered no immediate indication as to what caused Moore's death. An autopsy did not identify an immediate cause of death. Fisher said in a statement, examination of the body revealed no evidence of traumatic injury, including no bruising, lacerations, gunshot wounds, stab wounds, blunt force trauma, strangulation, or other external injuries. So, as a result, the cause of Moore's death remains undetermined, pending additional testing and review. Additional evaluation is required, including histological studies, review of medical records, and toxicology testing, Fisher noted. Moore was reported missing on June 12, 2026 after family and friends were unable to reach her. Her disappearance and subsequent discovery of her body sparked widespread concern throughout the Midlands, where she was well known as a fitness trainer and outdoor enthusiast with deep ties to the Lake Murray community. So, there really isn't anything. There isn't anything yet that we can say is definite for Elena and what happened to her. I'll read more the rest of that article in just a little bit because it does go into talking about her timeline and all of that. But first, let me find. So we're going to go here. We're going to click off that and so back to Nancy. I found something a little short of Megyn Kelly's that we can listen to, and it was a really interesting take on the way that the letter was worded. And I don't know, we keep talking about what happened, what really happened. And we still don't know. It just amazes me that there still really is absolutely no information, no leads, no anything when it comes to Nancy. Now, granted, maybe the FBI is doing some stuff in the background, but it's bothersome that there's still nothing. And from what it sounds like now, which I did not realize, is after that second letter was sent to either, I don't know, the FBI, the family, the news stations, the second letter that talked about we didn't know her health condition was as severe as it was. Basically, sorry, my bad, she's gone. And when Savannah had come out with her statement saying, we understand and we're willing to pay, apparently there was no more contact from these people after that. So, I'm going to cue this up, and like I said, I thought it was an interesting thought, and it's got my favorite, FBI agent. Let me pop her up on the screen. Let's just listen to this for a moment. And please, if you have it, if you're just coming in, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe and the notification bell so that you can come on back and hang out with us and discuss cases and all the things that we do around here.
Buried with nature. We never intended to hurt her. Even like she perished? Perished? Was that word used? I wonder? Because can we just like hit on the feminine point a little bit more, maybe expand on that? Like buried with nature. We never intended to hurt her. Even like she perished? Perished? Was that word used? I wonder? Because that jumped out at me. That's not really how people talk. And then the nothing you could have done could have changed the outcome.
Like, don't blame yourself.
Like the weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just very conciliatory and very strange.
It is weird. And when I heard those things before I even listened to this, I thought, gosh, that sounds like someone who maybe knows them, has some kind of place in their heart for her or for the family. Maybe not in their heart, but has a familiar connection.
Considering the facts of this investigation, of this case, of this poor woman, to talk this way, any self-respecting criminal would at least be a little more honest about what happened here. They're trying to soften what they did, and please don't blame yourself. I hope you're not being too hard on yourself. It's so weird.
Well, because, I mean, if you're following their logic, they had said in the original note on February 2nd, and again, Sunday was the 1st, give us $4 million by Thursday or else. Again, using the term actual or else.
So yeah, so they were threatening. I mean, what does or else mean to you? To me, it means or else they're going to take her life.
And now here we are.
Or at least
they haven't paid. And they're writing the note saying she's gone. Oh, and by the way, there was nothing that you could have done to have changed the outcome. So they seem to be saying, you didn't give us our $4 million, but don't worry, she was dead anyway. Even if you'd given us the money, it wouldn't have panned out for you.
And what kidnapper cares? Who would care if they felt guilty about not doing something?
But if you want to give us money anyway, we could get the body back to you, I guess. Or at least maybe that's just still lurking out there. It's implied. It's not clear. In Brianna's description of it, no one's talking about, but that original, because the original note we know, James said, $4 million by Thursday, $6 million by the following Monday. If you wait, it's going to cost you more.
Right.
Then comes the second note. Like, why would they send a second note? Like, hey, FYI, she died, and don't blame yourself. Like, what's the point of that?
Well, it looks like they also didn't give any real particulars on how to get that $4 million to them. It doesn't sound like there was any clear communication given. This is how you would respond to me, get back to me.
Right, just the Bitcoin, right? The Bitcoin address. That was the only information they gave. Which I'm going to try and remember something else I want to bring up about that too.
And then they're just double tapping. Hey, by the way, it's it's not worth it now because she's gone, and we're sorry, but you can still give me some money because I get the body back to you. But I think you and Maureen are nailing a couple of really important things. If true, that she's with nature instead of saying she's gone with God. I mean, if you're following the case, that that Nancy was a believer, and so that would track with her. This note person saying it was a heart condition, which would track with if you're following the case, about the pacemaker. But saying that she is buried with nature is interesting.
Well, who says that she's buried with nature? I mean, I found that very odd too. It's weird. It's like, again, trying to soften the blow. And with this title, it's a significant of a feminine tone. Like someone is trying to smooth everything over, making sure that they don't feel bad, they don't feel guilty.
It needs to be looked into, and there's plenty of people who are really smart and can put words together and study language and really the context of a statement like that. Is that said in certain parts of the world? And certainly I hope the FBI is looking into something like that, because that's just a very interesting phrase. And then what you had said earlier, Megan, about we didn't realize the extent of her condition. It kind of drew me to one of the two things, which is I thought initially that there was some pre-operational surveillance, meaning they looked at the house and maybe even looked at her, and then whether or not that was because she was Savannah's mother, or because it's in line with this nice house, nice theory we were talking earlier about
Or did they know her already and perhaps know the family?
Crime gang hitting these nice houses, but still both would speak to pre-operational surveillance. And maybe that's what she's, the note writer is alluding to, is when we looked at it, we didn't realize she was that, kind of old or fragile. And I thought that was very interesting.
There's reaction today from Savannah herself, who did address this on the Today Show this morning. It's like, you kind of forget that she's back doing her job without any resolution in this case,
And like I said, I just find it odd. The wording is very nurturing, want to make sure that they're all right. I don't know.
She has to do. We all have a job to do. She has a job to do. But then
Hi,
this
Gina,
story
today.
is in the
Good to
news
see
again,
ya.
and she, felt the need to respond for obvious reasons. And here's what she said.
The bravery and courage with which you have done this job every day since that happened, nothing short of remarkable.
Wow.
Nothing short of remarkable.
I love you guys and I love this place, and this is unusual and unprecedented to say the least to be sitting here. But I don't have any comment on the story, and I'm not involved in our coverage. But I can't pretend I'm not here. And so since I am, I wanted to just take the opportunity to ask people to beg people to come forward. Somebody knows something. And this is a new story today that is on your radar, but this is the life that my sister lives, that I live, that my brother lives, that our extended families live, that our children live every day. And we are in agony. And we cannot be at peace. So no matter how much I try to come out here every day and smile and find that joy, and I will, I promise I will. This is a moment to tell you that we need your help. We're begging for your help. And I'm not going to miss that opportunity. And so please, if you're watching,
Yes.
no matter how small, the reward is there. You can tell us. It can be anonymous. Please do the right thing for us, for our family, for our children. And we love our mom, and we'll never stop looking for her. Never.
And that's something, that's the most I've really heard her say since the ransom letter things about any of this. Yeah. And I just have this weird feeling. I just wonder, do they really know? Or are they going to find out that they do know who did this? Did that letter almost, like I said, has like a nurturing, like apologetic vibe to it. Did somebody do this? Did someone set this up because they needed money and they knew that Savannah would, or thought that Savannah would give this money up at any cost? And in the interim, maybe they just thought they'll pick her up, they'll take her to a hotel for a day or two, Savannah will pay the money, they'll take her back, nobody will be any the wiser, whatever they were going to do. And then something happened, and now, oh my God, scramble time. Because that seems not just feminine, but familiar to speak to them that way. I mean, I've never in my life, in a movie, and it just, in real life, it just doesn't seem, it's odd.
I wish he had mentioned the reward too, because it's like somebody that the reward actually could motivate somebody to come forward. And that is something we should discuss, because Howard's reporting, and I know Howard Blum, he's very solid. Like I don't know how he gets the information he gets, but he gets really good exclusives. And his reporting is that this task force that we've all discussed before, that's what remains on the investigatory team now. And it's a combo of FBI and Tucson cops, detectives, that the task force has like expressed some regret, from the sound of it, about not paying the ransom. Like that if they had just paid, if the FBI had agreed to pay the ransom, or tell Savannah to pay the ransom, that $4 million in the beginning, that the FBI really feels confident in its ability to track the Bitcoin, James.
And also, who would know that she would feel guilty for not paying the ransom, seeing as it was a complete accident? I mean, I don't see kidnappers, strangers, putting that kind of care into a note. They literally could have never contacted her again after Nancy passed and just gotten out of Dodge.
It's Bitcoin. So it's not just like cashing a check. It's going to be a lot harder to track it. But that at some point, the Bitcoin has to be withdrawn, or it does the kidnapper no good. And so why didn't they just pay the $4 million and then track the Bitcoin and arrest the perpetrator? Because what he writes is that, and we had speculated about this, instead they decided to, quote, tickle the wire. And remember, we talked about how Harvey Levin had reported that there had been a $300 deposit made into the bank account of whomever wrote those first two notes, into the Bitcoin account.
I remember that.
And no one bit. No one touched it.
Mm-mm.
Now, he's reporting it's a different number, like $141 that was deposited, but it's neither here nor there. The point is, the FBI, according to him,
Harvey seems to be kind of confused right now. Like I said, I think he's desperately hanging on to try and be part of this story. And he's lost trust with the FBI and with who his informants were, because every single thing they say, he, runs right to live stream to say it.
did, in fact, this is the first confirmation we've had that it was the FBI who put the money in, and that it was an attempt to tickle the wire, James. They thought maybe the kidnapper would be dumb enough to take it. And Howard reports that either the kidnapper was like, nice try, right, and knew it was a trap, or just wasn't interested in, risking anything for $140. So your thoughts on whether they should have paid it? Like, if they're really believing this note was legit, as Savannah does, and her information definitely comes from them, and that they had all these things right about the Nancy scene and Nancy herself, and now we know more about what the two notes sounded like why didn't they just pay?
It's because protocol. I mean, we got to remember that the reality is we still never had a proof of life ever. So the first note, didn't indicate anything like a picture of her, anything. Yeah, we do have some information about the watch, but that would not be specific enough that the Bureau would say, yeah, just go ahead and launch $4 million. Because if you do, and you don't get her back because it's a scammer, then there's going to be more $4 million requests, and you're going to keep playing that game until you run out of money.
And I get that too, because it could just be, look at, we have Derek Kalala that, hi Rhonda, how you doing? Good to see you on. We have Derek Kalala, who was supposed to be in court today and is now going in on July 2nd to change his plea agreement. He had originally pled not guilty. So I just kind of wonder, I don't know, I'm wondering, do you think, they've been talking about like these wrench attacks, and they've been talking about these different things all on the waves, and could this be something as simple as that, and he was actually part of it? Because they talked about kids literally going from California out to other states to do these attacks. They meet someone online. It's all done, in the dark, on the down low, and they're going and either robbing people or assaulting them, different things like that. I just wonder, I'm interested to see what happens July 2nd. I mean, he's just going to change his plea, but after that, if anything comes out, and I cannot find the video, of course, now, because I watched too many of them. They were talking about, is it possible that he does have some information, and by pleading guilty, changing his plea to guilty, perhaps he can get some leeway for himself by sharing some information that we don't know.
And so that's why they don't do it, is because if you don't have any real legitimacy, and the only way you can really get that legitimacy is you've got to show us this person that you say you have, they just can't do that. And that's and that's a question I asked too, if they believe so much. But that protocol is there for a very good reason. And I, it might sound callous, but I agree that they shouldn't have paid the $4 million without an actual proof of life of Miss Guthrie.
I just don't understand, Maureen, what kind of a kidnapper? If you go with this is the kidnapper, what is the point? What is the point?
Well, and see, that's what I'm wondering. Because it seems like, exactly, it seems like that's just a drop in the bucket to them, as far, like pocket change to them. Hey, Nadia, how you doing? Oh, no worries. I had technical difficulties, so I ended up late anyway. But which kind of makes me wonder, did they even suspect that they knew who it was? See, that's me. I kept thinking if I had all that money, I'd do whatever I could. I mean, if they really and truly thought that those 2 notes were legit, those first 2 ransom notes. And do you remember during the press conference that Nanos had with the sheriffs, with the FBI, is the FBI came forward and said, after he made his spiel about how you don't want to do that because you don't want to attract people coming in and saying, claiming that they're it, blah, blah, blah. But the FBI guys came up forward and said, but it is ultimately up to the family. So it is ultimately up to the family. So yeah, I don't understand. I feel like I would have been doing so much more if that were my mother. And I mean, I know, put yourself in someone else's shoes. I know. But see, that's another thing, is everything I have read has stated that pacemaker is still transmitting information to the doctor's office, as far as that it would not stop, but it would show that the patient was deceased, that their normal sinus rhythm, whatever, is done. And we haven't heard that either. And, with, as far as the cartel, that note, like I said, seemed so familiar and had had like a nurturing tone to it. Like, just don't worry. It's okay. No matter what you did, nothing would have changed the outcome of this. And just, it's okay. She's with nature now. Like, what a guy's not going to say that. I can't see someone from the cartel saying that. And well, and that's just it. That's just it. It is absolutely crazy. And I just can't believe that there's literally nothing. I just can't.
Point of on Thursday, after they've missed the deadline, sending a follow-up saying, she's dead. She's dead now. We didn't intend to hurt her. It's not your fault. We think it was the heart. Nothing you could have done. What is the point?
The point is they're amateurs. And they, and I have to first go back for a minute, if I could, to James, because if in fact they did pay the ransom without any proof of life, what precedent does that set for every other person who's kidnapped? Everyone's going to jump out of the woodwork even more than they do right now, because you saw the predators pounce when that award.
But can we really say there's no proof of life? I'm just going to play devil's advocate. When the first note allegedly said, this is what she was wearing, this is where her Apple Watch was, and check out the broken floodlight on this.
Exactly. Like, I mean, they didn't have a oh, I didn't think about that. If that person didn't speak English and they used, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. And yeah, I have read that they don't do, because it's traceable, so they do everything in Bitcoin now.
Part of the home. That's our proof that we have her and we were there. Is that?
Or did somebody's wife write it? I'm getting, this happened. You're an idiot. Here, let me write this. You'll be done. Whatever.
Not qualified. It's more than saying nothing.
Sure, but it's not enough to say that she's not dead. I mean, if you just consider how they transported her or how they had to transport her. So she's bleeding from presumably her mouth, which they already know by now because they've tested that blood to see if saliva was in it or whatever on the front porch. So she's bleeding from her mouth. She's 84 years old. She has no medication with her. She's very frail. She's scared to death. And there's no proof of life. They obviously spoke with her doctors. They've talked with family members. You could see from watching her on Savannah's show how frail she was. So if they were doing pre-incident surveillance, they saw her with a walker or a cane going very slowly around her backyard. And when it's really hot and dry like that, it's difficult to, you could see someone breathing with labor. It's you know, you have to have proof of life.
Or were the kidnappers not actually the ones that did the surveillance, or maybe they were just given details and some details were left out for someone else?
It does sound callous, again, to Jim's point, but I agree with it, actually.
I mean, like in
All right, how do
negotiation,
you
I mean,
like
they
this
teach
one?
you.
Yeah, go,
I'm
James.
sorry, me.
No, you go.
Just in negotiation school, I mean, they teach, obviously we want to establish communication, rapport, but we got to keep the goal in mind. And we both have the same goal here. I mean, I want to get her, if I'm working this as a negotiator and I'm talking to the kidnapper, look, I want her back and you want to give her to me because you want your money. So we have a common ground here, but for me to get this money, because $4 million, I don't have it laying around. I got to go get that. But before I go get it, can you prove to me you have her? And it can't be that you know there's a floodlight out that you could have got from a Google Earth overview or some a previous story. Because Megan, you did a great job playing all the previous stories of interviews that Savannah had done with her mom, where I could have seen that Apple Watch. I could have seen the details of that inside of her bedroom. I could have told you the nightgown she likes to wear. I could have told you the color of her pillows. All things I would have got from open source. I wasn't a kidnapper, but I would have seen those things. They were open to me. So what we would be looking for is give me something else. Like prove to me you have her, which is why you always see the newspaper clipping. The hostage holds the newspaper of the day.
Well, I guess that's it. I mean, I just thought of like a phone conversation or a video or something like that. But and you're not the first person to say that, Nadia. A lot of people think that Savannah's demeanor is a little sus. And again, I go back to I don't think she knows who did this, but does she maybe, are some of the same questions in her mind that are in ours? I mean, that would make sense.
So we know, okay, we still have a live body, and then we can negotiate in
James,
good
if
faith.
you're fake, if this is a faker, okay, I'm with you. I accept all that. But like, if you're a faker, why would you send that second note? I can actually kind of follow where the real kidnapper might do it. Like if the real kidnapper has her, it's Tuesday night. Sorry, it's the first was Sunday when she was taken, right? Yes, and then the notes came on the second and third. So you have her, you want the money, so you're sending out the notes on Monday and Tuesday, saying 4 million by Thursday, 6 million if you wait till Sunday, and you offer enough detail in there to convince somebody you have her. This is what she was wearing. This is where the Apple Watch was, and this is what the floodlight looked like. Then you watch the world explode over your note. All the speculation, all the stuff. And then let's not forget, one of the first things the Guthrie family said, Savannah in particular, right away was she desperately needs her medication. Like she said she's not going to survive without her heart medication. And
we haven't gotten a detailed list of what was left, but you can assume if they said that probably some medication was left behind, right? And so these people didn't know, in my estimation, if you were watching someone and you wanted to keep them alive, that those would be details that you would know, unless the person who had her or who was set this up thought that she wouldn't be gone long enough for her to need that medication. Or they're just, like I said, they're amateurs and didn't think of those things.
And we were never sure whether that was 100% true or whether it was an attempt to ratchet up the urgency for the kidnappers. Like, we need her back ASAP. Maybe it was 100% true and she dies. So now she dies. So you can't give proof of life. There's no more life. You have Nancy, but it's a body now. And maybe by the time they sent this follow-up note on February 6th, it was the day after the ransom was due and not paid. Maybe by that day you decided to take a different tactic. You've got to fess up. You cannot provide proof of life. There's not going to be any talking to Nancy or pictures of Nancy holding the daily paper. So you decide to come clean, saying she's dead.
But why say anything at all? Like, that's what I don't understand. Why say anything at all? Because they didn't, according to now what we know about these letters, it's not like they said, listen, give us half that amount and we'll tell you where she's at. No, they just said, basically, don't worry. There was nothing you could have done. This was an accident. We didn't realize how sick she is. Sorry, but don't worry. She is buried with nature now. And then that was it. So I don't get the point of it at all. They just could have just gone away.
But I don't know whether it's explicit in here. According to that Brianna, it's not. But maybe the theory is the earlier demand will stand, and maybe they will pay us for the return of the body. And indeed, that is what Savannah responds with. So that makes sense to me. But if you are a fake kidnapper just trying to get Bitcoin, 4 million or 6 million, that second note makes no sense.
Well, I I'm surprised you haven't been through this because I know I haven't. I think probably Maureen has too. But when someone's trying to get something from you, they just keep trying. They don't stop. Right? They're incessant about it. It never ends.
But they weren't incessant. They only sent 2 letters. The first one was demands. The second one was, sorry, our bad, she's dead. That's it. Incessant is the weirdo that kept messaging Harvey at TMZ saying, I can tell you where she's buried or where she is. Didn't that person say that they had her? I can't remember if they said if it was where she was buried or if they said that someone had her in a home somewhere over the border.
just keep coming. And so they hang on for anything. And that's why you send the second note is, oh, maybe I say the right things. Maybe I sound like you all had said earlier. Maybe if I sound apologetic or I sound sympathetic, that maybe, you'll send me some money because I have nothing right now. If I'm a scammer, I have no money right now. Maybe I can get $100,000 from you if I tell you where the body is, and that's typical 101 fraudster mentality and methodology. That's exactly what they do. So the second note doesn't surprise me.
Well, that was exactly what the second set of notes, the person that wanted, like, what was it? Like a percentage of a Bitcoin. And then it was first it was like $65,000. Then it was like 100,000
at all.
You wouldn't expect them to write the second note, ratcheting it up. Like, she's hurting, she's scared, which, by the way, someone, I think it was Harvey, reported was in the first note that she was scared.
She's okay, but she's
scared.
Then,
so the second note, you ratchet that up, get Savannah upset. She's the one with the deep pockets. Like, let's scare her, as opposed to run the risk of her being like, well, I'm not paying $4 million for, somebody who may or may not have a body.
Well, notice it worked because she went on Instagram the next day on the 7th saying, hey, we hear you and we'll pay. So what happened? That's the good question is, okay, what happened from the Instagram post to this, IP address? Why was there no more contact, right? What happened then? Because there's no one reporting on any of that.
Question.
Nobody, right?
Okay.
So what happened?
Here, Maureen, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah. And that's my question too. So then why not continue? Why not, if they were really trying to they didn't have to tell her that she wasn't alive at all. They could have either just gone away or they could have pushed this out. There are ways. I mean, maybe I just watched way too many first 48 episodes, but
I have another thing I want to bring up. Go first.
We're missing a lot of pieces of information, and without them, it's going to be hard. But I think part of what happened with the second note is they're trying to take their foot off the gas. They're trying to trying to make the situation a little less explosive. And by that, I mean, they're trying to turn down the temp. Right now, everybody's full steam ahead. Everyone's looking for it. They're out searching for it. It's pedal to the metal, every single law enforcement agency, and they just wanted to just pull that back a little bit. And by saying that she's gone, by saying that she's, out in nature, what does that mean? It means they're going to, so we don't have to worry about writing warrants for houses right now. I mean, it just sends the investigation in a totally different direction. And
maybe, I mean, I don't know. That's still, it's weird to me because it doesn't send them in any direction except for a dead end. No pun intended, but to me, in my opinion,
away from someone. And the final thing about this is a lot of this the verbiage here is someone who cares. We always said from the beginning that this is someone that had some nexus to Nancy. This person is trying to say that they care because that might, as James said, that might get them to pay. But they're just predators. They're just going to do whatever they can to get someone to pay them.
Thanks for watching this clip. If you're new.
Or did they, like I said, we keep talking about how it's, all of these things surrounding this are suspect in Savannah, but maybe, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, I'll let you decide who, what, where, but I just kept, after watching this and hearing some of the things that other people have said, I just really started thinking, do they possibly think that they might know who this is? Does Savannah think she knows who this is? And maybe at this point, maybe she wonders but can't bring herself to think about it. Maybe it's someone that's very close to Nancy. I guess is it tomorrow night? Well, it's whatever the next episode, not tonight's episode, but the next episode that Chris McDonough does on the lab. They're supposed to be talking about, he apparently interviewed some of Nancy's friends. So it's going to be interesting to know if they talk about any kind of anything, just any relationships with people. Was there someone in her life that needed money and thought, because it was very obvious. I mean, she spoke about it many times, how close to her mother she was, and that her mother was her greatest gift in life. And could someone who needed money, but either couldn't ask her, couldn't borrow it, was maybe told no, thought that this would be a way, set this up so that someone takes her somewhere for the night, a couple days, whatever, that she's safe and she's taken care of, and then they can get their money. Whoever sets the Bitcoin up, whatever, takes their share. She's returned and everything's fine and no one's the wiser. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting on, I thought it said the 2nd of July, which, man, there's a lot of stuff going on the 2nd of July, but that's when Derek Kalala is back in court. And he is, like I said, changing his plea agreement. He had pled not guilty. And so now is he going to go in and plead guilty? Is he going to go in and plead not guilty with certain reasons, certain exponents that are added to it? That's going to be interesting. And does he really and truly, that whole story has bothered me since the beginning of this. He texted. Now, I get it. You can get anyone's cell phone numbers off of the internet. It's really easy to find out where people live, find their phone numbers. And maybe he really did sit there and find a list of all their phone numbers, old, new, whatever, and finally found ones where they answered and said, is the Bitcoin ready? But that just... And was that volunteered information or was that found information? That's something else that I wonder, that we haven't really heard. We know that it was on their phones. But I don't know. It just makes me wonder. And like I said, I'm not accusing anybody because there's nothing that definitely points to anyone, but it's odd. It's odd that he's changing his plea now. Maybe he has more to tell us. Maybe it wasn't just a prank. I still think it's weird to do a prank like that. Why would you? And that, I thought, came before any of the ransom notes had been received. The actual notes. So, I don't know. We're going to have to wait until that July 2nd to find out what he has to say. And this whole investigation is such a circus now that who knows? It doesn't sound like Pima County's in the loop, and FBI is not going to give up anything. They were talking about another case the other day, talking about the FBI and how they don't give anything up until they are ready to take people to court, till they're ready to indict. So, I don't know. I hope that we get some more answers because this is really bugging me. I had thought back to, it's not, I still remember that night that I was live and we were all watching JLR and Brian Etten race to Rico Rio. And halfway there, there was a call across the radio of a medevac flight leaving Rico Rio with an 84-year-old female with heart trouble, and they were bringing her to the hospital. And that reporter, I cannot remember his name. He had the dark hair. He's the one that had walked up to JLR and wanted to do an interview with him. And JLR said, no, thanks. He's going to do a burn piece on me, basically. And I think it was 857 Tucson. One of the other guys that was out there ended up doing an interview with this guy. But he ended up going to the hospital that night. And they all came back and stopped at the hospital on their way back into town after the raid in Rio Rico. And yeah, me too, Rhonda. Me too. I heard that and I'm like, oh. So there's part of me that still wonders, and this is maybe it's just wishful thinking, but was that her that night? Now I know because of, the hospital can't tell any kind of details about anyone, because of medical rights laws, HIPAA, etc. But what if that was her? I mean, now granted, maybe she isn't with us anymore because that was so traumatic, of an experience for her. But could she be somewhere being protected? Or maybe her health is not well at all until they find out who has the most connections. Yeah, and that was exactly, we were talking about it that night. I remember, is that they can't tell. They could just, when they said they walked in and to the hospital and said, no, that's not her. Or no, we don't have anybody by that name in the hospital. Yeah, that's the only thing that they can say. When I took my certification classes, for one of the things that I'm certified in is medical, what is it called? Medical office assistant or medical office admin. And that was one of the things that they talked about, is if, like, when we were working at the hospital, if someone walked in and asked if someone was there, we had to tell them no. Hi, Bear. Welcome back. And I mean, it got so to where we couldn't even, we weren't supposed to, like, call people's names out. We couldn't use people's last names in the office when we had appointments. We would just be able to call their first name. And that was kind of iffy sometimes too, as far as following that line. There's still just so many odd things to me on this one that I don't know. It doesn't, it feels like there's, and of course, I mean, it feels like there's a lot more known. I don't understand why they wouldn't have simply told the public about this ransom note a while ago. I think a lot of us feel that there are details that wouldn't be harmful to the investigation, but would give people more of an idea of what to look for, of what to find suspicious, of where to look, of what to think. And you have Sheriff Nanos talking all the time about all this drama and all this stuff. And, yeah, I'm not, lots of us, the people that are really serious true crime people, none of us are happy about that. We're not happy when that happens, no matter who it is. But he helped create that with all this mystery and all this kind of headbutting people and this stubbornness that he hasn't just let go of, and picking and choosing very carefully who he does interviews with and who he doesn't. He should want to get whatever info he can out there so that this can be solved. And it doesn't seem like he wants to do that. It seems like a giant peeing contest between him and whoever else, whether it be streamers, whether it be the mainstream media, whether it be other, deputies. the FBI, and I don't know. I don't think at this pace. I mean, do you think they'll ever find her? Or is this going to be one of those cases that we talk about forever? And I'm honestly surprised. This is one of the few that Netflix hasn't done something on yet. I mean, shoot, the day, like, it was 2 or 3 days after Alex Murdaugh applied for or received his appeal, won his appeal for a new trial. Netflix had a half-hour Instadoc, is what they called it out, describing what was going on. Yes, truth will be, well, I'm not sure how long it's going to take. She had some running to do. She had to run into town and stuff. So, she said she will be here. If she gets back in time, she will definitely show up. So, she's been busy lately. But yeah, I did want to go over that though with Nancy with those notes, because I just thought it, first TMZ, first Harvey comes out and says, yes. Yeah. I do remember that, Rhonda. And who says that? Why would you say that? And I don't know. I think he didn't take anybody seriously when this happened. I think he really didn't know how to handle this. I think he's very much more about how he looks politically than if he actually, I mean, my gosh, his wife had to tell him that Savannah had made a statement on Instagram because he didn't know. And I don't know. That hit me wrong too. Why didn't he know? Why wasn't he talking to her? I just don't even know what to say anymore with all of this. Oh, I agree. I agree. I think he is. I think he's all about himself. He's a bully. He's who was it? They described him as like a mafioso, that he really ran his department out of fear. And well, that statement came out when when some of the YouTubers were arrested about that the deputies really didn't want to do that, but that they had to. He basically said, do it or it's your job. And that stinks. Usually I haven't had tons of dealings with police, but usually whatever they're dealing with is at their discretion. And whatever you believe, right or wrong, about those guys, I just found it, I don't know, it just made me angry that I thought that here, whether they believe what they're doing is wrong or not, that they still have to go out there and do something at the call of a man who is basically the Wizard of Oz sitting behind the curtain. And they could lose their jobs for it. They could lose their way to put, and how, I mean, that's they lose their ability to put food on the table for their kids, to pay their bills, to do all of that. And I don't know. I don't like him. I never will. I hope that they get him out of there, because I don't think he's good for that community. I don't think he's good for anyone. He lied about his resume. He lied about getting in trouble and getting kicked off of, what was it, the other force. And I still haven't watched the reality show. I can't even remember what it was called. I was going to look for it and watch it, but yeah. So that's what we've got so far in all of this. Is there's still not much, but there's enough to make us question again, as usual. So with that, let's move on. See, I don't think it was that calculated. I think if it was special ops, that things would have gone a lot smoother. Well, I guess it depends on what country special ops it is, right? But yeah, I don't think it's that. I think it's a bunch of doofuses that did this. And I feel like there's somebody there's somebody in charge that's running a bunch of fools around doing this. There's somebody that's not getting their hands dirty somehow, or thinks they're not going to. It's okay, Bear. It's okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's still a mystery, and stop my screen. This is the right one. So next, we're going to bring a little... I don't know. My chat has been doing that lately. And it's got a question. Why does it have a question mark by it too? On my screen, it's got a question mark at the end. Like, not the one that you typed it, but it's probably your autocorrect it's just trying to embarrass you. But this is, and we started off by reading about Elena Moore. This was something that we were talking about the other night. You know, someone had asked in chat, well, how do we know how do we know if she was murdered or not? Just by when the medical examiner said at first glance there was no foul play, anything like that, they didn't have those thoughts. And it's exactly what she ended up saying, was there was no gunshot wound, there was no blunt force trauma, there was nothing physically obvious to say that someone caused harm to her. I don't like autocorrect either, and I have got a new phone. Okay, I got a new phone, and it doesn't know me yet, and it's driving me nuts. So it's autocorrecting every single thing that I do, and it's just, it just makes me mad. So, but and now that they actually did the actual autopsy, the physical part of the autopsy, the physical examination, they haven't found anything. There still is nothing. There is no gunshot wounds. There's no blunt force trauma. There's no broken bones. There's no obvious signs of why she died. And so now they're going to move on to toxicology and things like that. So in toxicology, they're going to do blood draws. They're going to do things like that. Toxicology doesn't just mean were there any drugs in her system, but they can, when they do all these blood draws and everything, they can find out, did someone have a heart attack? Did someone have a stroke? Things like that. They're probably going to do more in-depth tests like that to find out. And the sad part is that sometimes, no matter how hard the medical examiner works, there still are just no answers of why someone passed away. That is actually exactly what happened with my mom. We to this day do not know. They said whatever happened was quick, and it probably was shortly after I had just got done talking to her on the phone. And that was it. That was it. And there's no and there's no other answers. And sadly, that might be something that happens here. Now, Truth and I were having a discussion about this the first night when they found her. And I just had this thought in my head. What if, and what if she was taking something that was not drugs, but was something for her like a supplement or something like that, that was some of that she would take, like pre-workout, something like that. And I started looking into some supplements, and one things that I found out is pre-workout can be, now I'm going to screw this word up, contraindicated with some psychiatric medications, and it can actually cause some of the same symptoms that we saw in that video, as far as being flushed, sweaty, anxiety. It would heighten anxiety, and it can cause the psychiatric meds to not work as powerful as they would, and it can also cause these other symptoms. And then we heard from her friend, whom I don't know, and I said it that night, there was something off to me about that friend, about how much she actually knew. But she did say that she had a heart condition that she had to wear a monitor for. Um, so what if it was a combination of things that were absolutely legal, prescribed to her, but the combination of the two, because a lot of times when people think natural, they don't realize that natural can still have effects with meds, with your body. It can be just as dangerous as a chemical drug that you would get, like a prescription. It can be just as dangerous. And like, what is it? Their flowers, I had to take them out of my old house. It was called foxglove, I think. And it's very, very dangerous for pets and small children, because it is actually what is or was used to make digitalis back in the day, which is a heart medication. So a small child or a dog or a cat or someone goes out and eats this flower, think a flower, big deal. But it actually has these horrible side effects because it is used to make a medication. But I'm going to play this, and you could hear out of Brian's mouth exactly what the statement was.
Hey guys, so we just got some information on the autopsy for Elena Moore, the young woman, the personal trainer who was found dead in Lexington, South Carolina. This is from the coroner. I'm just going to read you exactly what we got. It says, Lexington County Coroner Margaret Fisher is releasing the preliminary findings from the forensic autopsy of Elena Moore. It was conducted on Saturday. The autopsy did not identify an immediate cause of death, so we still don't have a cause of death. Examination of the body revealed no evidence of traumatic injury, including no bruising, lacerations, gunshot wounds, stab wounds, blunt force trauma, strangulation, or other external injuries. As a result, the cause of death remains pending at this time. Additional evaluation is required, including histological studies, review of medical records, and toxicology.
Okay, so histological studies. That's going to be her medical history. So they're going to find out, does she have a heart condition? Does she have any other underlying, like diabetes? Does she have anxiety? It's going to be both physical and mental, I believe. So um like I said, medical records, whether or not they be psychiatric, whether or not they be her physical general practitioner's records. um was she going to just one doctor? Was she going to several? Were the doctors talking to each other to find out what medications she was on? Because that's another thing that happens a lot. People will go to different doctors for different things.
Testing. Toxicology can sometimes take weeks. So we're gonna have to wait and see what comes back with the tox report. But it's interesting. They're saying no signs of blunt force trauma or any physical injury based on this autopsy. So still a bit of a mystery. Hey guys, so we just got some.
And something else that I found out, and I will find that so that we can go over that statement. I just happened to see it today. But a lot of us were questioning when they had said that the husband had her vehicle, that he had found it in Lowe's parking lot and had it towed. Well, now we're finding out that this timeline is a little bit different than what we originally thought. And he had the vehicle towed from Lowe's parking lot while she was in the Three Rivers behavioral facility. And somewhere there's a statement from him saying that he knew that she was in there. That's why he had it towed. And the reason why he didn't report her missing until the next day is that he didn't realize that she had been released on the 11th and that she had walked away, released on her own recognizances. She signed out, probably against medical advice, what they call that, AMA. And so I really do, if that's the case, I think that he probably thought, okay, a lot of us have had to deal with people with severe mental illness, and the outside world doesn't always know about it. And hi, Sue, how you doing? Yes, they're going to. Those have not come back yet, but I am going to be interested to see. And they may not release them. We don't know, but I would be interested in seeing if they do, um, release a toxicology report, because um, I just have some questions about some things. And we look at Jake. Oh my gosh, why am I having such a hard time with names tonight? He had the two famous parents that he just murdered. He had schizoaffective disorder. Now, not everyone that has that is violent, okay? But something that was talked about in that was a change of meds. And apparently, the day that she was picked up, I believe that was the 4th or 5th of June. Someone called to do a welfare check on her, and the police found her. And I don't know. I had heard rumored that it was the husband's firm that made the call, or someone from there. But the husband's firm, he's the PI at. His sister works there. He works there. So it could have been his sister calling because he was upset or out looking for her or whatever. That day she was arrested. Not arrested. She was taken into custody and put in for probably, I believe it said like a 72-hour hold. And then she was released from the hospital into Three Rivers. So it wasn't just a matter of her getting on meds and being regulated in a couple of days. And sometimes it can take a long time if she wasn't taking her meds regularly, because sometimes what happens is people start to feel they're on their meds and they start to feel good. Rob Reiner. Yes, Reiner. That was the name I was trying to remember. Thank you so much. Rob Reiner. Why could I not remember that name? But people will start to take their meds and they'll start to feel good. And they'll think, I'm okay. And they'll stop taking them because they think it's like an antibiotic. Or there are major heavy duty side effects to a lot of these meds, these really powerful meds for people that have powerful mental issues. And the side effects are not fun. The side effects are a lot of times weight gain, loss of emotion, loss of just sensitivity, kind of walking around numb, I've heard people say. And so you do make a trade. In the Grinder murders episode of the podcast that I did, of the crime cast that I did, that was one of the things that his ex-wife talked about, was that when he was on his medications and he was taking them regularly like he was supposed to, he was a wonderful man, but he didn't like the side effects. And he was a chemist. He was a brilliant chemist, and he felt like it dulled his brain. And it probably does. And so you have people taking their own medication into their own hands. And there are street drugs that give similar effects or better effects in the taker's opinion than what the psychiatric drugs can do. And a lot of times that's something that my dad was a drug and alcohol addiction therapist. That was one of his roles. And he worked for the VA. And one of the things that he always said was that most of the people that he came in contact with as clients did have certain mental issues, and either they weren't getting the help that they needed, or again, they were self-medicating themselves for something that they didn't realize, that they had never been diagnosed. And well, and see, and that's it. Sometimes like that, like bipolar. Um, and it depends on the severity. It depends on, there's so many now with the psychiatric sciences. There's so many different, everything is such a spectrum now. They're finding out that there's so much more than just these very similar or very certain, disorders and diseases that they really can narrow down. And one of the things, I have a son that's autistic. My oldest is diagnosed autistic, and my youngest is in the middle of going through all of that stuff. And something that you always hear is like, if you know someone with autism, you literally know one person's story about autism, because it's a spectrum. Every single person that has autism has a different combination of disorders, of issues, etc., things like that. And most mental illness is like that. So there isn't one magic pill. There isn't one, some people do need meds for the rest of their lives. And then some people, like your son, can go to smoking and it be better, or CBD, or we have a lady at our market, our farmers market, that makes this stuff out of, it's called wild lettuce. And I've seen uh welcome, who knows? Is that 60%? I believe that. I believe that. And that was something that he studied also. I remember him talking about that's how a lot of adolescents became addicted to things, is because they were self-medicating and they didn't even realize it until it was too late, and they were addicted and they were starting to have physical issues and etc. And I really and truly think, and this isn't just because I was a therapist's daughter, but I think that if we really took um the taboo out of mental illness and got people more help that needed it, that we could make such a huge difference. Hang on one sec. I have got a knock on the door. I am going to play this. This is the interview the other night. Brian Enton talked with, I believe this is the PI that was hired to look over this case. So I'm going to play this, and I'm going to say goodnight to my oldest real quick. I'll be right back.
On my show. Really appreciate everybody for watching, for supporting my content. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed. In this episode, I'm getting more into the Elena Catherine Moore case. I know this is something that we've all sort of been consumed with all week. I want to get in this episode some reaction from the private investigator who's working with the family, and specifically Elena's husband, about what he has to say about what Elena's friend Sandra told me yesterday, that there was trouble in the marriage, that Elena was scared, that she said she was scared for her life, and that there was crazy SHIT going on right now, that's what Elena had told her friend. So I'm going to have the private investigator react to that. He's also going to give an update on the case, everything that he is learning. There is he says, an autopsy that is scheduled to happen this weekend. So we will probably be getting more information maybe on Monday about a possible cause of death, although sometimes if it's toxicology involved, that can take, weeks and weeks and weeks. But I want to play you this latest conversation with the private investigator, Henry Dukes, where he explains a lot. I asked him to react a lot to what Sandra told me yesterday. And he sort of just gives a general update of what's going on right now in Lexington, South Carolina. So I'll talk a little bit more about some of my thoughts afterwards, but I first want to play for you guys my conversation with Henry.
Hey, Henry, thank you for joining me again. I appreciate it, sir. I just wanted to talk to you about sort of the latest updates with Elena's case.
And so I'm going to have the private investigator react to that. He's also going to give an up.
Sorry about that. I had to say goodnight to my oldest. I'm glad he still wants to say goodnight to me, right? Let me read this comment. The doctors change medications way too much for kids that are going through things now. That my son's an adult. He does much better on weed than he ever did on the medication that he was put on. With my son, he was on some stuff when he was younger, and I took him off of it, and he's doing much better. And see, some of those medications can have opposite effects on them. My son was starting to get really dark on his meds, and that was exactly the opposite of what we wanted to happen. So,
date on the case, everything that he is learning. There is he says, an autopsy that is scheduled to happen this weekend. So we will probably be getting more information maybe on Monday about a possible cause of death, although sometimes if it's toxicology involved, that can take, weeks and weeks and weeks. But I want to play you this latest conversation with the private investigator, Henry Dukes, where he explains a lot. I asked him to react a lot to what Sandra told me yesterday. And he sort of just gives a general update of what's going on right now.
Now, keep in mind, though, this man's working for the husband, and he knows them both very well. So, this is his take on everything, but I really do hope that this is how she was treated by her husband.
In Lexington, South Carolina. So I'll talk a little bit more about some of my thoughts afterwards, but I first want to play for you guys my conversation with Henry.
Hey, Henry, thank you for joining me again. I appreciate it, sir. I just wanted to talk to you about sort of the latest updates with Elena's case. Have you been able to find out at all sort of what's going to happen next? I heard some rumblings that the autopsy will happen this weekend.
Okay, I kind of break it down for you.
Thank you.
Of course, law enforcement's continuing their investigation, putting everything together, just like we would expect and appreciate that they do. The coroner's office is also doing their investigation, where the autopsy, I have been told, is supposed to take place on Saturday. Now, as far as any information being released from the coroner's office, that will be, from them. It could be up to 2 to 3 weeks, a month, maybe even longer for everything as far as the autopsy is finalized.
And that's what we talked about earlier, was they're going to have to go do the histology. They're going to have to do toxicology, all of that. Find all of her doctors, find the pharmacies, find what she was taking. Try and see what was in her system, if anything.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that the coroner won't release, some information. And I'm speaking a lot of that off of experience, and then some of it off of facts that I have been, told. I think the one thing we have to remember with the coroner's office is there is no positive ID, that has been done yet. Okay. All that has been released at this point is that they have found an individual that has clothing on that matches the clothing that Miss Moore was last seen.
And we now know that it is definitely her
wearing. So, they have to get a positive ID completed, and then they have to do the autopsy. And from there, there'll be toxicology reports that'll be done, things like that, which of course takes a considerable amount of time. And, that's another reason that it's not bad that the state law enforcement is involved in it. They have their own crime lab. They have their own, I think some of this is, unless somebody, agency decides to send it somewhere else, SLED does the analyzation right there in-house. So this stuff would go to them. And then, and of course, they're not going to want to finalize an investigation until it's completed. Okay.
And remember, SLED was also who worked on the Alex Murdaugh case. And he said that was one of the reasons why he said he didn't trust them, because he had issues with them before. And yeah, well, they found him. They found everything out they needed to about him.
Yeah, that makes sense. And from other, all the cases I've covered, I know that like toxicology can sometimes take weeks, and you won't get an official cause of death for quite some time sometimes. I guess what I'm a little confused by is, though, in terms of just identifying her, I would have expected that would have happened a little more quickly. Not cause of death, but it seems like it would be more simple to just say whether or not it's her.
Well, and I guess that's a good way to state it like you did. But I think a lot of it goes back to the fact that none of us know the condition of the body they found. Okay. If you go back to some stories I'm sure you reported on, where they discover a body and all they have is bones, it can take a while to do a positive ID through finger.
And which we also know from his short that he played and from the Fitz News article that she was basically, from what they could tell, intact. She didn't have any gunshot wounds. She didn't have stab wounds. She didn't have blunt force trauma. Nothing, no broken bones, nothing that seemed out of the ordinary that would point to foul play. or someone hurting her or her injuring her, like falling, even not someone else, but maybe she fell and broke her neck or broke her femur. Someone had said that the other night. What if she broke her femur when she fell? And, so there's nothing.
Prints through teeth, dental records, so forth and so on. It's not, let's put it this way. It's not what we always see on TV where you walk into a room and they pull this thing out of a cooler and you look at it and go, there you go.
Right.
So I think there's some issues that I might not, maybe not the word to say issues, but I think there's some things that.
Yeah. And that could have been one of the ways that they identified her was through dental records. If she, it depends on, because what was it? It was the 17th, was it, when she was found? And it was the 11th when she went missing. So 6 days. It had been hot. It had rained. And I think one of the other things that we had watched talked about that she had on like a hoodie and yoga pants and all of that stuff, which would also speed up any kind of, decomposition. And well, her friend said she had heart issues. I haven't heard, the only person that I heard say that was that friend that Brian Enton interviewed. But this gentleman, he kind of says, don't put much stock into what she says. And I kind of felt like that too, because the things that it sounds like there were other instances when Elena probably had gone into a behavioral center. And this friend didn't know that. And she talked about, this was something that kind of clicked in my head. I had a friend who was in and out of mental hospitals. And what would happen is she would have an issue and she would, do the right thing, call, go get help, whatever. They would put her in the hospital and they would take her phone for 30 days or 2 weeks or however long she was there. And she wouldn't be posting on Facebook. She wouldn't be posting and, she wouldn't be texting, anything like that. This friend said that it was her husband controlling her. But could it possibly be that she was having episodes where she needed psychiatric in-house treatment? And that's what she was telling her friends. Or was he trying to get her help for her mental health issues and she saw that as control?
They have to go through a process to be able to, in this case, and as in some other cases, to be able to do the positive ID.
Yeah, and I know you're obviously in touch with the family, working for the family. Have you gotten any information? Like you mentioned that, we don't always know the condition of the body, but I mean, she wasn't gone that long. I mean, I would imagine, like when you say bones, sometimes that's, people are missing for like months or years.
And when you talk about that heart condition, that was something I was talking about before you got in here. If she was taking, say like pre-workout or certain supplements, things like that, they could have, if she had a heart condition, there was that bodybuilder that passed away a couple years ago. And he was taking opioids because he was in pain from all of the heavy duty training. But he was showing videos of himself just downing this pre-workout stuff. And eventually he had like a massive heart attack and died. And he was only like in his early 40s, I believe.
Have they been given any information about the condition of the body?
Okay. Maybe, me saying bones I was just using that as an example.
Yeah, of course. I understand. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going to have to say to you that based off of my experience, we were in day 6 of somebody being missing. We had temperatures that were high. We were in summer. Decomposure starts immediately. Okay. And that's what you have to understand. I'm not saying they're how bad it was or anything else. I'm just saying based off of experience, I can tell you it wasn't just a point of walking down there and probably looking at a face and going, yeah, that's her.
Yeah. And there's things like, I'm not trying to get gross, but we follow these stories. There's lividity, things like that, where the blood pools down to the very lowest point of the body when someone's laying. So if someone's face down, you can't always tell, you can't always identify them because they don't look the same. Not from just an eye view.
That's Miss Moore. The other part is there's a certain amount of procedures that I think the coroner's office follows. You know, they might already know the answer, but they can't always assume that that's the correct answer until forensic pathology, autopsy is done to confirm what they believe. That's the key.
And they had said that. They said that they did not have confirmation, but that this person that they found was wearing clothes that matched the description of what she was last seen wearing. And
Where'd you have to look at?
We have camera footage showing what she was wearing.
Right there is confirm what they believe. They believe that it's possibly Miss Moore because it is the individual, the body that was found is wearing clothes that are similar to the ones that Miss Moore had on. The other factor is the body was found in a proximity area of where Miss Moore was seen at. Okay, you know, on security footage, video. So when you take all of that and put it in, I mean, I have to support the coroner's office for not coming out because.
And as far as we know, it was just her that was seen. We haven't heard anything about anyone following her. We haven't heard about, you know, I've seen things on like the Facebook groups and stuff like that, but you can't, you know, you never know if that's true or not, or who's saying what.
I can tell you again, based off of my experience, there's times that we found driver's license in deceased individuals' pockets, and it wasn't that individual.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm saying that I think that's what we have to, you know, we have to stay conscious and focus on is the fact that there is a purpose and there is a reason that everything is being done the way it is.
Yes, sir.
Accurate facts out to the public.
Makes sense. Someone sent me a video, and I don't know how they got it, but of the area where Elena was found. It looked like it was kind of off of a bridge.
That was, I believe her name is True Crime Belieber. She's on X, and she also went out there and left flowers for her, which I thought was very sweet.
Do you know that area? Can you describe it at all? Like, what do you know about sort of the area where, or I say, Elena, like you said, we're still obviously waiting for it to be confirmed, but you know what I mean. What can you tell us about that area?
Okay, what I'll tell you is the same thing that I stated last night. If I remember correctly, because I'm knowledgeable of this area, I think that's 14 Mile Creek that we're talking about. And if you look, I know you've probably seen it, that picture where Lexington PD and law enforcement has the intersection closed. There is a guardrail and then a cement curb, and there is a bridge that goes across, again, what I believe, if I remember, is 14 Mile Creek. That's where, you know, if you look at the white line between there and the curb, there's a small area that you could walk, you know, down the road. It is, and I think we probably have looked at the same video, is the one where there's a pavement marker and a nail, looks like it's drove in the ground.
Yeah, and there's like some bugs that I saw that I noticed. Did you see like bugs moving around on the ground? That's the one I saw.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say that.
Yeah, and that was the video that I saw. You could tell someone had been laying there, and it was sad. It was just very sad.
Yeah,
I know, and I don't mean that in like to be in a grotesque, but no, I noticed it in the video. There were like bugs in the soil.
Right.
So I guess it is the same video. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But the nail, and then when you look over, you can see the other markers on the ground. You're absolutely right. If I'll say it in a small Paul Harvey version, you're absolutely right. That's the area that you're talking about, right off of that the little overpass, bridge, whatever you want to call it.
Is that so? That's not like deep in the woods or anything. So she was discovered kind of right off the roadway. Would that be right?
Yeah, I would take and agree with that. Now that, again, always remember, I try to stay with facts. The facts that I'm stating this off of is the facts, the same thing that we saw off of that video, and also, you know, other things that I've observed. But that would be accurate in my belief based off of the facts that I have seen. Did I go out there? Have I looked over? No, I haven't. But I think that it's right over the side of the little overpass / bridge.
Do you have any idea, just from knowing the area, like how high up that? Because it's hard to tell in the video. Is it high up that if she fell, or I mean, do you know?
Without going out there and dropping a tape measure, I understand that it's, I think, between 8 and 12 feet.
Okay. Okay. And how far is that from the Publix?
Oh. Whew.
And that's from the map that I saw, which I'm trying to find all that right now. The Publix was kind of like just right across the street from there.
I would say quarter mile at the most, 10-minute walk.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you want me to, I can give you a little better understanding. When she saw at that Publix walking, if you went from right there and walked down, you're talking about 10 to 15 minutes at the most. And that's even if you were stopped to tie your shoe.
Okay. So it's all pretty close together.
Correct.
Yeah. It's such a sad, I just wanted to say again, I mean, it's I know my heart goes out to her family, and it's, I know we're talking about it like, you're a former investigator, I'm a reporter. We're talking about it, like kind of trying to figure it out. But at the same time, it is so sad, are you working for her husband? I mean, is that who retained you?
I am working for family and friends.
Okay. Family and friends.
And then also, I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. I know Elena. I know her husband. I've known him for years. Me and her husband worked together in law enforcement. Okay. He's been a career in law enforcement. Then he became a private investigator. I'm a private investigator. Of course, as soon as I knew about this, the phone call was made.
Yeah.
Okay. At the end of the day, the statement has been made by family and friends, because this is what I did in my career, was investigate and also find people that didn't want to be found.
And so far, I've only heard that one statement by that one friend. I've just found True Crime Believers X page, so I can show you after this.
So, family and the friends have made the statement that if there was anybody they wanted to be out there doing this, that was me. Okay.
Yeah. And you've been very helpful to us too. So, helping us understand kind of what's going on with your law enforcement experience. So thank you for that.
Let me say one more thing.
Sure.
Is the key thing also, that was my job, was not to investigate. That was law enforcement's job. My job was to assist in any fashion I could to try to locate Miss Moore. The other part of my, responsibility now, in a sense, is kind of debunking some of this false narrative that's being thrown out there because of people that don't know the facts. So, that's just kind of, where it's at this point right now. You have a family that's grieving.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, and all this, they've said that there's no, or at least at one point there was no foul play suspected, that her husband is not a person of interest, police have said. So what is her husband like? I mean, you mentioned that you guys work together. How would you describe him?
He's a great individual. I mean, I can't say anything bad about him.
And so the husband works for like an attorney's office. He was former law enforcement for 14 years, and now he is an investigator for this attorney's office. One of the things that was pretty interesting is that when it was looked up, Elena was listed as one of the agents on this business. So she too worked there. Now, whether or not it was just for, insurance tax purposes, whatever, if she really did work there, I have not heard anything since about that.
Okay. Every time that we worked on something together, and even after me retiring, him starting his private investigation business, and me being a private investigator, we've not only worked together, but we have also helped each other. Okay. So, I mean, and that's the reason I say it the way it is. And, I'm sure there's somebody going to come back and say, oh, it's a conflict for me to be involved in it. No, it's not a conflict, because I know the family. I know the individuals. That is a great help to be able to assist in any information or assistance that law enforcement happen to need.
Now, on the same topic, though, does he really know them and know what they had been through together?
How is he doing?
I mean, he's not doing good at all. I mean, he's grieving. Him and Miss Moore have been together, and it, the reason I call her Miss Moore is not because that's just my professional side. Okay. They've been together for a number of years. Okay. They built a life together. They got married. He's grieving. She was 39 years old. Am I correct on that one? I said, was it 39?
39, yes.
And I kept thinking too, he thought she was in this facility. He thought she was safe. And, this is something that, again, if you do love someone with severe mental illness, that you worry about, are you going to get a call one day? And maybe it was like, okay, this week I know she's here, so I can breathe a little. I know she's safe. I thought she was safe.
39. He planned on spending the rest of his life with this woman. Okay. The woman that he loved. And, I joke with him all the time that I don't know what she saw in him. It was a joke. But again, Brandon is grieving. Okay. The loss of his wife at this point in his life. I'm 65 years old. I mean, granted, we could all leave this world at any time when the good Lord decides. But what we have to look at is, normally we don't have to bury our children bury us. That's always where it's worse. He's got to figure out what he's going to do tomorrow. But he has to do that one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. He's got to figure out how he's going to pick himself up and pick his life up and continue.
Well, and that's it. At 39, you don't expect to be a widow.
Did, we obviously, a lot of people have talked to the friend Sandra, who's been out saying that, that there were issues in their relationship, that it sounds like, according to her, they were going to separate. And that essentially she's saying that, that Elena was scared of her husband. What do you make of that? Is that something you've heard about?
Well, let's go back to the video of the Uber Eats delivery, if that's what it was.
And I want to say something about that too. If she was having like some kind of mental confusion, I want to know, is there a tie? Is there a way that she could have found out that man's last name? Like, does he work out at that Planet Fitness? Does he shop at that Publix that's right there? Could she somehow have seen his last name and in some kind of mental confusion thought that that was her house or her apartment, or trying to put pieces together because she's confused? And when she got there, she was reading it and thought, because she read his name, you heard the name, you heard her read the last name out, and she was kind of surprised at the order, like, oh. It just makes me wonder if because then an hour later, when the gentleman who ordered the DoorDash, when his wife walked back out to go let their dog out, she spotted Elena sitting on the neighbor's porch going through his mail and his packages, and she said, "Do you know him?" And Elena said no, and she said, "Well, what are you doing?" And she said, "Yeah, I really don't know." And she said to her, "Well, you need to leave." And then, did somebody around there know her and know to call the law firm, to call her husband, to call the husband's sister that worked there, because maybe things had happened previously? And that's why they knew to call in a welfare check for the police to go check her to see if she was okay.
That video was disturbing. Okay. I don't think there's any hidden fact that there was something going on based off if you want to analyze just that video. Okay. If this individual, Sandra, was such a close friend of Elena's, how come law enforcement hadn't interviewed her? They've interviewed other close friends. They've interviewed family. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you have to take the own words that she said during your and her interview. She said, "I'm sick." So I think about right there, we have to leave it at that.
And that's just it. At possibly, like I said, was this a group of friends that they weren't that close, but she wouldn't have told them all of this. This girl talks about her history of moving and going from a foster home to, or like an adoptive home to a foster home before she was 18, it sounded like. And then I thought she said that's when she moved to South. That was her story to her friend about how she had ended up in South Carolina.
She doesn't know the facts. She admitted that in your interview. Again, if she was such a close friend, law enforcement would have already talked to her. She has no factual information to provide. And at the end of the day, I think she needs to do like everybody else is doing, is stay in her lane.
Yeah, and I mean, how relationships are, and I know you knew them, like you said, but I mean, it's possible, right, that there were issues that you didn't know about. People can be very private with those kinds of things.
Absolutely. I mean, come on. I mean, people don't know if there's problems between me and my spouse. Brandon and Miss Moore, Elena, we're very private people to a certain extent. I'm not saying that there might not have been something going on. Okay.
And telling someone that you want to be your friend and you want to hang out with you and you want to think you're cool, and because you're an influencer and you're a trainer and all of this. Hey, by the way, I have quite an extensive mental health history is not something you tell people.
And don't take that out of context, please. What I'm saying is that's private. If it had rose to the level of somebody's life being in danger, I think that it would have been being dealt with. I mean, that's the factual side of it. Okay. Do I know the nuts and bolts about their whole relationship? Absolutely, I do not. But what I can tell you, Brandon and Elena were two outstanding, nice people that were building their life together.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's they're young, you know. It's like
Right.
it's really sad. What about, you know, the was she, you know, the friend says that she was in, I think it was like a mental facility at one point recently. What do you know about that?
Nothing that I can speak on. I think that some of that, let law enforcement, let Lexington City, let the state law enforcement division do their investigation and, you know, reveal all of those facts as it comes to be facts. Okay. I don't see that where that is, I can't, that is not something I would have permission to talk about.
Understood. Are you in contact with Brandon a lot? I mean, are you guys talking quite a bit?
Off and on, there's a very close family friend. Well, more than one very close family friend who is basically a go in between me and him in a sense, just so I'm trying to get it where we don't hear that ring anymore.
Oh, no problem.
Well, and I'm wondering, the friend that was interviewed talked about a friend that she was staying with because things were not going great in their marriage at that time. And we don't know why she left. We don't know. He was still, obviously, if she's living in staying in someone's couch or their house, you know, that friend's not stepping up and saying, yes, she had to come to my house because he was violent, he was mean, he did this, he did that. It's just that one. And I believe there was one other one that was going to speak out. I have not seen her interview, but was part of that group that she went to lunch with that day.
I know you got a lot of calls coming in.
But there's kind of a go between, just so, because he's dealing with things. You know, of course he's not. So there is kind of, but there's constant communication between me to him, from him to them, to me.
You mentioned rumors and things you wanted to clear up. How is Brandon handling that? I mean, because it's just, you know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going around right now. If you look.
Oh, and correction, it's Brannon. I found out it's not Brandon. I kept calling him Brandon too, but it's Brannon.
Online, a lot of people are kind of suspicious of him, and even though police have said nothing about that, and that he's not a person of interest, and we're all waiting to see what the cause of death is. Like you said, the investigation is ongoing, but how is he dealing with that?
How would you deal with it if people were online saying that you killed your wife? That's devastating.
That's what I keep trying to keep in mind too with this. This one, I feel like there's a real slippery slope with this case. And something like this happening, and you struggled with this person for years, and now this is the end result, and it's someone that you loved and you tried to help, to have the public going after you. I mean, we understand why that, you know, the husband, whoever's closest is usually the first suspected, but if that's not what this is, I just feel so bad for this man and for anybody that cared for her.
I can't say it any other way. It's unnecessary. And of course, it causes nothing but more heartache and pain for somebody to have to live through.
With SLED, if you can explain it, because you know the way it works there, because you're former law enforcement. Is it normal for SLED to be called in, or is that because he was a deputy with the sheriff's office?
I think that the best way for me to do is explain it.
Sure.
He was a deputy with Lexington County Sheriff's Office. Okay. He's a private investigator, which means he has interaction with aspects of law enforcement. Okay. So when you look at that alone, there has to be a question that has to be answered. Because he was previous law enforcement, who should be the proper agency to investigate this? I think there's a couple key points that would make it understandable of why SLED is the right agency to handle it.
And that's what I thought about. If he worked for that department previously, the last person in the world you want investigating is your friends or people that would have a closeness to you, perhaps, or a certain level of respect, because they may not be able to be unbiased.
I'm not saying nothing against Lexington PD. I'm not saying anything against Lexington Sheriff's Office. They're capable of conducting this investigation and carrying it to the end. State Law Enforcement Division is a supporting agency. Okay. Any agency in the state of South Carolina can call them in to assist in any investigation, be it an involved officer shooting to anything.
Yay, Truth. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I had major technical issues. There's still some live stream hanging out there that I don't even know. Hopefully nobody's in that one because we're all over here.
Okay. So that's one reason you sit back and you say, okay, SLED's probably investigating. He used to be an officer. Let's chunk it SLED. Then you turn around and you look at it. I don't know this for sure, but I was pointed out, I think it was last night or night before last, that bridge and that little area right there is not in the jurisdiction of Lexington City. It's in the jurisdiction of Lexington County. I don't know that for sure, but that was told to me. And I said, I'm not sure, but you're right, because I know there's certain places where the town has one side of the road, but the other side is still in the county for whatever reason. That's another reason, if that is true, that Lexington City would pass it off to the State Law Enforcement Division or Lexington County.
That's true. It depends on borders and things like that. Oh, no, I was saying YouTube kept rejecting my title again for some reason. And so it ended up every time I had to click and try to retitle it, StreamYard was scheduling a live. So I had like 11 lives up on my thing. So I took down the ones that I thought didn't work anymore. And I took down the wrong one, apparently. And then it told me to make another one. And I did. And it didn't attach it to this other one. And so, yeah, it's a big old mess. So, yeah, this is the private investigator that knows both of them. And he is talking about just talking about what the next steps are going to be in the investigation. And now we know from the reports of the autopsy that came out yesterday that there's no visible signs of any trauma to her. There is no wounds. There's no physical reason through the physical examination that they could find her cause of death. So now they're going to go on to medical history. They're going to go on to toxicology, all of those things to try and see if they can find some answer. And I was saying earlier at the beginning of the live, I still wonder about like what we were talking about the other night, like supplements, like something like that. If she did have a heart condition, now we've only heard it so far from the one friend that nobody really knows if they can trust or not. If she did, and she was taking something that was a supplement or something, was it interfering with her psychiatric meds? Was it harming her? Could two things have happened at the same time? That she was not medicated properly at the behavioral center. She was let go, or she left, signed herself out, AMA, and then had some kind of medical episode brought on by something else, something that she thought was safe, but wasn't, with her heart condition.
The other point, the key point, is that what SLED has at their ability. They have the crime lab. They have 24-hour crime scene people. They have investigators all over the state of South Carolina.
Just a second. Let me read that in the big screen. Well, that's she was a pharmacist. She was a farm tech, so she wasn't a pharmacist, but she had quit working there in 2026. I don't know the month, but she had worked at CVS from 23 to 26 because she wanted insurance. Well, and it sounds like there was something else, and I've got to find it, that he knew that she was there because, see, they were the ones that called the welfare check, or someone at his firm called a welfare check on her that day. The police found her. And I don't know whether or not the DoorDash orderers called the police too, but that's when she was picked up by the police and taken for a 72-hour hold at the hospital. And then she was released into Three Rivers. So that was why we were talking about at the beginning. That was why he had the car towed, because he knew she was there. And so he had the car towed so that, because you're not going to want it looked like a pretty nice car. You don't want that just sitting in a parking lot. And so, yes, she stayed until the 11th. And then when people couldn't get a hold of her or something like that, but they called him the 12th. Now, I don't know who called him. Was it Three Rivers that called him? Was it the friend that she was staying with that maybe she had called and said, listen, I'm out, I'm on my way home, or something like that? But if they switched her meds because whatever she was on wasn't working for her, yeah, but see, this is the thing. Is that true? Or was it someone that was trying to help her with her mental illness and she wasn't listening and she deemed it as narcissistic abuse? Because they talked about her being a vulnerable person. So maybe someone that needed a guardian. Yeah, he had it towed home before she reported her missing because she wasn't missing. He knew she was at Three Rivers. He had it towed home when she was at Three Rivers, which, like I said, that doesn't seem real suspicious to me. And that was the day that she was picked up. See, what I had read was that he had it picked up earlier than that it was before that, because that's why the police said that he'd had the car was in his possession the whole time. So it sounded to me like he picked it up, like he found it or was told it was there. See, I hadn't heard that it was that day. I heard that it was before that when she was in the hospital, and that's why he had it towed, is because he knew. And then he was told that that someone could not get a hold of her, and then he called it in on the 12th. The 11th was the day that she was released from Three Rivers. So she was released that day, that morning, and then went and did her little excursion, whatever she did. Nobody knows. We don't know the details of what she did during the day, but see, I hadn't heard any of that. Planet Fitness on those cameras that day and then reported missing the next day. Yeah, the 11th, she was on the cameras and she was seen running through the Lowe's parking lot back behind Lowe's into that wooded area. Yeah, see, I hadn't read that. About what I had read was that he had stated that he had it, that he thought that she was still in there, and that someone brought it to his attention that she wasn't. Or did Three Rivers call him and tell him that she had been released? Yes, I hadn't heard any of that with it being that day, because that was what the Lexington police said, is that he wasn't a suspect and that he had possession of the car the whole time. Okay. All he did was follow her around stalking. Like, can I ask where you read that? Because I have not read anything like that. All I've heard is from the one friend, and they were all part of that group. And this is something that when I get through with this, something that I found on X that was about those friends, and that this person got a hold of someone else and wants to talk about some things that they said the public needs to know about that friend.
Okay. They're able to travel
The one that Brian Enton interviewed.
anywhere to conduct interviews. They have different offices all over the state. So, in a sense, when you look at it, it's a good idea.
Is there anything else, Henry, you think is important that you want people to know?
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, if it's an article, I just am always really careful about those groups, because you don't know who's posting what, you don't know who's saying what, you don't know if they actually are friends, if it's actually the truth. Because I've seen some stuff in the groups too, but I don't have anything to corroborate that it's anything that is provable, or if it's just hearsay. So yeah, definitely send me those articles. I'd like to read them.
I guess there's one key thing that's important. We have a family. You have a husband that's grieving for a loss of a young lady. We don't want to lose focus of that. But we also have to pump.
You all right, Truth? I know. And that's why I just said is I don't usually repeat stuff that comes out of the groups on Facebook and things like that, because you can't really trust those. But if there's articles, yes, please send them to me. I'm not accusing you of posting hearsay, but I have a lot more at stake when I post or say something versus someone in a chat saying it. Because so if I don't see it for myself and I don't fact check it, then I don't post it as fact until I do. That's it. I wasn't saying anything about you or accusing you of posting hearsay or anything like that. So let's get through this. There's only a few more minutes left of it.
The brakes and let law enforcement do their job. They're capable. They are well doing their job to the best of their ability. Let the coroner's office do their job. She is doing an outstanding job. She's staying in touch with the family. She's communicating with the family. Okay, helping them through their grief to be able to handle it. So I think what needs to be done is everybody needs to pump the brakes, let these people do their job, and stop trying to make wild accusations with no factual basis.
Yeah, we'll just have to see, right? I mean, we got to wait for the autopsy and see sort of where things go. Maybe we'll learn more beginning of next week. You think?
And that's it. Like I said, so far, there's no signs of any physical trauma, that anyone hurt her, that anyone did anything to her. And so hopefully it's sooner rather than later that these toxicology results come out. So maybe they can find something.
Think maybe we'll get some more information.
I'm not going to be, it wouldn't surprise me just from past experience for the coroner to come out, after Saturday and make an announcement of an ID.
Yeah.
I don't know what information she would provide with that, but it wouldn't surprise me for that to happen because, think about it. Everybody's concerned. Is it her? Is it somebody else?
Yeah.
They're going to want to know that information. And I think she's trying to do the best job she can to get that information to the people as soon as she can.
Well, and also for the family. I mean, like you said, it seems like it's probably her, and I'm sure they know that, but to have some finality would probably also be helpful for them.
I think it absolutely. I mean, then they get, then they have to go in another stage of, taking care of things, and they have to, plan what they do next as far as arrangements, things like that. And then, I think you understand what I'm saying. And I think the people do also.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate, sorry, what were you going to say?
But the family and Brandon are surrounded by a bunch of people that love both of them, thought the world of both of them, and is now allowing him to have some people to lean on to try to get him through every minute, every hour, every day of this tragic situation.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me again, Henry.
Not a problem at all. And if you need to reach back out to me for any more clarification, I'll be more than happy to help. I mean, I am limited. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think some of it, the information that I have now at this point is because I have a, connection with the family. And that's the reason I'm saying that but again, just to sum that up, feel free to reach back out to me. I'll give you clarification if I can and if I know it.
Okay. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, sir.
All right. You have a good day.
And so, yeah, so he is been, it sounds like kind of maybe the family liaison between everybody. Now this right here, make sure I'm sharing it right.
Sad.
This is where she was found.
It's very sad, you guys. Her name is Elena Moore. She was 39 years old. She went missing just a couple of miles away when she was last seen over there. And it's just really sad. She was disoriented because I think mental health stuff, and that's where the body was. Do you see? You can tell a body was there.
And those little red things, there was, in fact, it might show a better picture. You can see down at the bottom there too, the little red tickers.
Yeah, it's very steep. So say you're just walking, like this is just, say you're like in the dark, right? And you see woods out there and you're not thinking it's a sharp drop. You see brush, you're just like, oh, I'm going to go over here. And then right there.
But what could have happened if there's no physical signs that she was injured? If there's no, they don't see anyone on camera but her running across the parking lot or walking across the parking lot. It isn't reported that she was with anybody. Nothing that's that's based on facts given by police or family. And so, and you would think if there was someone that they saw, that they'd be asking, you know, who she was with, etc. And now there's no physical signs. So like we said, we know she didn't break a leg when she fell. If she fell, did she fall or did she jump down there? Was she, running through and didn't realize that there was a drop off? I mean, there's a guardrail there, and they didn't show it in this picture. But in one of the pictures, they were talking about, let me see if it's down here.
Standing on the porch.
No,
He was
that's the
sitting.
guy.
Really sad.
That's the dude.
She was disoriented because I think mental health stuff.
And this shows a little bit better area of where she was laying is down through here. Now, whether or not she was right on those rocks or she was in this area a little bit more, that could be it too. But they're those little red markers. I found out they are actually from they're
that's where the body
survey markers. I zoomed in on one and I Google or I AI'd it and checked, and it said that it was a survey marker for from a road crew or things like that. So most likely didn't have anything to do with this. But this woman, I don't know who this woman was, but she did leave some flowers for her, and I thought that was quite sweet.
4 o'clock. Swallow in self-pity.
Let's see if there's anything else that she. And so this is someone. This is on the 15th. And that's while she was missing. People believed that he had something to do with it. What's this one? But I'd like to know who. This is another one. She was our friend. She was my friend. She was someone's daughter, and you took her from us. You know what you did. It may not be out yet to public, but it will be. Now, something else that was brought up the other day, too, is that being that she had mental health issues, yeah, in the Lowe's parking lot. Yeah, that was what I heard, too. Let me check it out. Just a second. Ooh. Okay. Let me do this. Give me one moment. Come on, load up. Oh, come on. Oh, I'm in the wrong account. That's why. Derp. Come on. Sorry, my... Oh. There we go. Okay. Why is it not? Oh, that's why, because I'm in the wrong stinking account. I am having so many just dumb issues today. There we go. I'll get this. I promise. I'm getting there. Okay. One, two, three. Okay. Sorry. Apparently my... Oh, why is this being dumb? We'll try this a different way. Come on. I have to send them to myself, apparently. Okay, well, it's not going to work that way, so just a second. Just a second, I'll figure this out. My messages aren't showing up on my computer for some reason, but I'm gonna... I don't know why it's not showing up. Oh, just a second. Okay, well, I guess I'm just going to have to read it with my face because this is not working. I can't. It's not letting me. It's not letting me switch it over for some reason. Okay. Let's see. Let me get over here. Let me do this so you can see me. Okay. This is from News 19. Search for missing Lexington woman continues as new video emerges. New surveillance footage reveals missing woman. Let's see, what's the date on this? Come on. This is June 16th. So this is because what day was she found? That's what we were trying to remember. Was she found the 17th? New surveillance footage reveals missing woman Elena Catherine Moore was last seen walking in a Publix parking lot in Lexington on June 11th, according to police. Lexington police say a newly obtained surveillance footage has provided another clue in the search for a missing woman who has not been seen since last week. Investigators say 39-year-old Elena Catherine Moore remains missing, but recently obtained camera footage shows her walking through the Publix parking lot at 100 Old Cherokee Road on the night that she disappeared. According to Lexington police, the footage captured Moore walking toward Old Cherokee Road approximately 9:17 p.m. on June 11th. She was wearing the same olive green zip-up hoodie and black athletic pants she had been seen wearing earlier that evening. Police say Moore had previously been seen after checking into Planet Fitness on Whiteford Way at approximately 6:40 p.m. on June 11th. Investigators say she was later observed walking away from the gym toward a wooded area behind the business and a nearby Lowe's store. Right. But like I'll read the next article. That was it for that article. But that's what I was saying is then I didn't read anything about, oh, you're welcome. I didn't read anything about him towing it the day that she went missing. Lexington police say newly obtained surveillance footage has provided another clue in the search for missing woman who has not been seen since last week. Investigators say 39-year-old Elena Catherine Moore remains missing, but recently obtained camera footage showing her walking through the Publix parking lot on the night that she disappeared. Let's see. Which date is this? Okay, it's this. They're both the same article, from the 16th. But that's what I'm saying is I did not read anywhere where it says that he towed it on the day that she went missing. So let me see. Detectives told News 19 they are continuing to follow up on new leads as the investigation moves forward. To aid in the search, investigators have also released new photographs of Moore. Police said the images were captured by a front door camera a week before she was reported missing and are intended to help members of the public recognize her and remember any recent encounters. Private investigator Chandra Cleveland, who is not involved in the case, said surveillance footage could play a critical role in helping investigators determine Moore's movements after she left the gym. So now that they know that it was within the Whitford Way and Kaufman Farm area, they can have people who live within those areas check their cameras on those dates of June 11th around 6:30 to 8 p.m. And it said if you live within that area, you have cameras in your area. Check back on that date and see. A second, my phone just refreshed. Check back on that date and see if you see anyone fitting the description of Elena with an olive green sweatshirt on and black leggings. Moore is described as a white female, 5'7", approximately 120 pounds, with brown hair, brown eyes. Police have said it remains unknown whether she has her cell phone, which we did find that she did have her cell phone. It stopped pinging Monday. So yeah, I don't see. Am I missing it? Because I don't see anywhere where it says that he had her car towed before he called the police the day that she went missing. or on the 11th. It sounded like, because I don't believe that from everything that I have read, I don't believe that he anticipated her leaving that mental facility. And so when the police were called and they picked her up and took her to the hospital, I mean, okay, so let's play devil's advocate, and let's say that the police were his buddies and he called him and said, listen, she's, whatever, and had them pick her up. Okay. The hospital's not going to keep her. They can't legally keep her unless she really is actually having a mental health crisis. So she stays there for 3 days. But she wasn't home. According to her friend, she was staying at another friend's house. See, they were separated. They weren't living together. She was staying at a friend's house and he was at home. And so, but that's what I'm asking. Where are you getting that stuff? The day that she was supposed to come home and never did? But it doesn't sound to me like she was supposed to come home. She signed out on her own. But that's what I'm saying. I don't see that in those articles. So that's what I was asking, is I wanted to see where it said that stuff. Because that stuff, if it isn't backed up by something, if it's just in a group, then that is, let me see. Let me see. Newly obtains another clue. She's not been seen since last week. It says here that he located her vehicle on Friday. Okay. So police say there were no signs of foul play associated with the vehicle. I skipped this paragraph. So this is what it says about the car. Officials say Moore's husband located her vehicle in the Lowe's parking lot on Friday. So let's see. Tuesday was the 15th, or Monday was the 15th. Sunday was the 14th. Saturday was the 13th. Friday was the 12th. So he located her car. But did he know that she had checked out before that or not? That's my question. So Friday. And then it says new developments come after a large multi-agency search of wooded areas near Planet Fitness and Lowe's failed to uncover any trace of Moore. So he picked it up on Friday. But did he know at that point that she was not at the hospital that day? That she had, let me see. Lexington police say newly obtained, sir. 39 missing, but recently obtained. Her car wasn't at Three Rivers, though. The police took her to the hospital, and the hospital took her to Three Rivers. So her car was in that parking lot from when she had her issue on the 4th or the 5th. So let me look through, because I'm not seeing that where it says when she didn't return home. The first, where is it? Well, she drove it there. That apartment building that she was seen at is right there. It's all right there. The apartment complex, the Publix, the Planet Fitness, it's all right there. And so I believe she drove there on that day when she went, the day that she went, the day that she was picked up by the police. She was 6 miles from home. She didn't walk there. She drove there. And she was seen in that area. And so my assumption was that she parked at Lowe's because for whatever reason she was drawn to this area, whether it be that guy's last name was the same as hers, and she was, having some kind of confusion because of that. I'm going to read this one more time because I am not seeing, and maybe I have ADHD. I could just be skipping over it. Lexington police say newly obtained surveillance footage has provided another clue in the search for the missing woman who has not been seen since last week. This is the 16th, the day before she was found. Investigators say 39-year-old Elena Catherine Moore remains missing, but recently obtained computer or camera footage. They would have towed it if they knew that she had a car there. But if she was confused and didn't tell them that she had a car there, they'd never know until security or whatever maybe saw it for a couple days and maybe called him, or he was looking, somebody was around looking for her and saw it. Yeah, I don't see it say anything about when she didn't return home. Because everything I have heard is that they were separated, they were having some issues, and she was staying at her friend's house. But that friend has not come forward to speak. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not seeing that at all. Where it said that when she didn't return home, that's when he went. And so, like I said, the car, they're not gonna, if they didn't know that she had a car with her, if she couldn't reiterate that to them, and it sounds like from the reports of at least the couple from the apartment complex that she was extremely confused. And that's what I wonder too, if she came back and her car wasn't there and she was freaked out and she didn't know why, because she was obviously still confused if she's walking around like that. And okay, and I get that. But again, social media posts are not always the best reflection of what someone's life actually is. A lot of times people post things emotionally. They post things that aren't quite, it's their interpretation of something, not necessarily the truth. And I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not saying I'm saying that I don't have any facts yet to, to hammer him on this, because this literally, from everything that has been factually reported that I have read so far, it sounds like she had many, if you listen to her history, even with this friend that you kind of can trust, kind of not, it sounds like she kind of had a mental health history. And was she perceiving things in the way that they were actually happening or not? checked her car prior to going to work out if she was going back to find her car in the case of it being left there? I don't really understand. Let me see. Wouldn't she have checked for her car prior to going to work out if she was... Wouldn't she have checked for her car prior to going to work out if she was going back to find her car in the case of it being left there? We don't know. If she has a major mental illness, we don't know what her state of mind was. That's exactly the problem, is we don't know. Did she even remember she had a car? The whole thing is odd. Why was she that far away from her home? Why wasn't she at the gym that she worked at? Why? It sounds like it was odd for her to be in this area of town. Even her friend had said that, the one that we don't really know if we can trust. And friends, but what friends? That's why you have to be I have to be so careful about social media and things like that, because it's real easy for people to assume things. And if she was trying to hide mental illness, who knows what she could have said to make it seem like it was him and not her. Or two things both the same, that maybe he was very controlling, and maybe that's why her mental illness was fueled. Because no matter what, when you see what's going on in that video of that day of her at that apartment building, and you hear about the account from the people that live there, that's not someone who's fine and got away from an abusive husband. That's not. If she was away, then she was away from that situation. Something was going on with her. And she signed out of Three Rivers, from what we have heard, on her own accord. The doctors didn't say, hey, you're good, go ahead. If she was being abused, being harmed, she's in a situation where there are people there, they literally ask you that question 1,000,000 times, and she could have gotten help for that too there. So what it sounds like to me is she probably drove her car there on, was it the 4th or the 5th, when she was taken into custody, not arrested. She was taken into custody and taken to the hospital, because according to the police officers, whatever they saw was odd enough behavior that they believed that she was not going to be safe. Either she was vulnerable because of her condition, her mental condition, or she could have possibly harmed herself. And so they put her in there. Like I said, they can't hold you unless there's a really good reason, unless there is clinical records showing like a history of your behavior since you got in the hospital and whatever. And for them to be able to then transfer her to a mental facility instead of just, I mean, I've known lots of people that got put in for 72-hour holds and were let out in 3 days after they started taking their meds. They weren't put in another behavioral facility for continuing care. The hospital will not hold you for more than your 72 hours. They can't do that. There's no beds. There's not the same kind of continuing care. So for her to go to a behavioral facility, and it sounds like she had been in others before, there's got to be a really good reason. And the friend in the Brian Enton interview said she didn't really know. She hadn't seen anything, but she heard Elena's side of the conversation when she talked to her husband about, and the fight, when she talked about it, she talked about the fight for the concert. We don't really know what that fight was about. We have no idea. The concert, they canceled the concert. She sold the tickets, or he sold the tickets. One of them sold the tickets, and she and her friend went out to dinner. And that was really all the friend could tell us, or about her not posting because she said, I just knew it was because he was controlling her. But again, I don't know if you were here for this part of the story, Truth. I was talking about, I had a friend who was in and out of mental facilities, and she would make up reasons for people that she didn't want her to know that she was in there, of why she wasn't on social media for the next 2 weeks, 30 days, whatever. But I knew why she was not on social media, because when she went in, they took her phone. They don't let you text. You don't get to talk to the outside world on your cell phone and have it in your room if you're having a breakdown or something like that. So we always kind of knew after that. We just didn't ask. If we didn't see her for 2 weeks or whatever, we knew that her husband would tell us if something horrible had happened. But we pretty much knew that she was probably having some mental issues if she wasn't on. And their relationship was very strained, because it's very, very hard to deal with someone when their perception of the world is not the same as yours. And, again, take it from me, from having a kid that has autism. It's hard to reason with somebody that doesn't reason the same way that you do, because their brain processes the world around them completely different than yours does. And so, yeah, so I'm going to be really interested in seeing what transpires from all this. And, I hope that friend is not telling the truth. This whole situation is just sad all around. It's, no matter what, there was something going on with her mentally that day. She was confused. She tried walking in someone's apartment. She was found going through people's mail. When she was asked what she was doing, she said, "I really don't know what I'm doing." She was confused. She was anxious. She was flushed. She was sweaty. Something was going on with her that day, and we don't know what it was. We don't know how it started. And according to reports, she was staying with a friend, with that friend. That was what the friend that had the interview with Brian Enton said, that she was staying with this friend. We haven't heard anything from that friend. And so I wonder, did that friend call him and say, "We can't find her. She was supposed to be here. She never came back to the apartment." And when he went to go look, he found the car and had it towed, thinking, okay, if we take the car, then she can't get away again, and she'll call and one of us can pick her up. Something like that. And then called her in missing on the 12th, because she still hadn't reported back. And people, maybe that's who has told him, the person who she was staying with, "Listen, she still hasn't come back. She hasn't called me." We don't even know if him and her were talking at that time. So, yeah, I'm going to keep reading and going through stuff, and like, just so you guys know, and especially you, no disrespect at all, but I have to be careful about what I put out there, because this is someone's life and I don't know the facts. I can assume, I can take my own experiences. I can take what I see from different cases that I've followed, that I've read about, things like that, and I can make assumptions. I can make my own opinions, but I can't put something out as fact if I don't for sure know it's fact. And so until then, two things can be true at the same time. He could have been a jerk, but she also could have had some kind of mental breakdown. And unfortunately, this is how it ended this time. And, I wonder, like with my friend, it was, with my friend, a lot of times it just got to be old hats. You're kind of like, all right, you didn't always take it real seriously. You just knew she was going to go in for a while. She was going to go through her therapies, do what she needed to do. and then be back out and hopefully be okay for a while. And I know in turn, her husband would be very controlling of her. And I think it was a combination of he was like that because, see, my friend's husband was military. He wasn't police, he was military. And she is absolutely beautiful. And that's what really makes me sad is you look, it's so easy. We'll get back to the social media thing. It really is so easy to read someone's posts and read all these things and not realize that a lot of times we're seeing, people don't always put up the worst of their life. They put up the best parts of their life, or they put up only what they want us to know. And it's not always a clear picture of what was actually going on. And so I always try to think about that. If I look and I see and I think, oh man, that person has like just an awesome life. And it's not always the way it is. And she does. And her friends said she's not on drugs. And that's something else that I have seen in a lot of these groups. That, accusing her that we know, I've seen other people say, we know her, she was, self-medicating, whatever. But then her friend that was interviewed by Brian Enton said how much that hurt her, that she wasn't someone that did drugs or that drank a lot, that did these things. And so we just don't know. And so, yeah, I just, until I see actual, like, from my point of view, from where I have to be, because I am responsible for everything that I say on here, for everything that I post. And, it's the dawn of the lawsuit on YouTube for streamers. So, and I own a pack of gum and a car, and that's really it. So I have to be careful with that. But, and definitely, if you guys see news articles, if you see anything like that, please send them to me, because if I don't know something, if I've missed something, I definitely want to know that. And so, because I want to make sure that everything that I put out is factual and true. And, any of us that have followed any like big cases and things like that know that things can get emotional, especially when it's someone that she seems to have been loved by very many people and very cared about. And I hopefully they really do get to the bottom of, and my biggest thing is I'm trying not to be jaded, because we have seen so many cases where there are these husbands that are just absolutely appalling, and they're abusive, and they're disgusting, and they hurt the person that trusted them and loved them the most. And so, yeah, I just don't. And I guess that's my question, is if all of these people think that he did it, allegedly that he did this to her, then what did he do to her? Because the autopsy shows no blunt force trauma, no stab wounds, no gunshot wounds, no broken bones, no injuries at all. And so now they're going to, and still point, and does not point to foul play. There has been reports from, like I said, I've seen a bunch of different stories in a lot of those groups about, one lady said that her dad was in the parking lot that day and saw her fighting with some man. We haven't seen anything like that. We haven't heard about anything like that. But this account from this woman on Facebook. There was another one that said that there was someone else that had accused her of taking substances, and that part of town was known for getting that stuff, and that would be the only reason that she would be over there, and yada yada. And according to her really good friend, she was not into that stuff. So, oh, girl, me too. Me too. I wish they would disown me, is what I wish that would happen. I was thinking about the other day, life would just be so much easier without bills, right? Oh man, would it? But so it is going to be interesting. I mean, we probably aren't going to hear unless something big comes up and something pops up, unless there is some information that the husband has ties to this. That maybe there is some new footage that comes up. I'm hoping that more people, like with Nancy Guthrie, they start looking at their camera footage, start to see, did they see something? Was she alone? Was she with somebody else? You know, it's going to be interesting, but I am interested. I'm just wondering if there was no, because it surprises me that she wasn't even injured from that fall. Did she fall? Or there is one other possibility. Did she do this on purpose? And she jumped down there and possibly took something and laid down and went to sleep and just never woke up. Excuse me, my allergies are running obnoxious right now. But I hope that's not the case. But it's just odd that a 39-year-old woman with absolutely no marks on her is found deceased. And the last, as far as we know, footage of her is her kind of aimlessly walking around businesses. And maybe I kind of wondered, was she looking, like, in truth had said that before, is like, was she looking for her car that night? Maybe that's what she was doing, was looking for her car. And maybe when she couldn't find it, I'd like to know how close Three Rivers is to this area. That's something that I forgot to look up. I wanted to see. Like I said, that apartment building, Lowe's, Publix, and the Planet Fitness, they're all kind of like in this little area. And so it wouldn't be real out of pocket to think that she was just kind of aimlessly around there. And what time, another question I'm wondering is what time. No, they said there was no marks. And they would have found that if she was strangled, they would have found that when they did the physical full autopsy. Because what they do is they look for they not only look for bruising and marks, but they also look for like there's a bone in your throat, in your neck, called the hyoid bone. And a lot of times if you have been strangled, that is broken. Or there's things like petechia in your eyes, where all the blood vessels are popped in your eyes from being strangled, from lack of oxygen. So there would be physical signs of that. And that's what they said. There is no physical signs of any injury on her. Petechia, see, with suffocation, you would get the what do you call it? The petechia in the eye. Again, any kind of loss of oxygen or pressure like that, those little blood vessels burst in your eye most times. So that's why they're going to toxicology and her medical history. And if that friend was right, said, could she have been so stressed out, had a heart attack? I mean, we just don't know. It's the weirdest thing. Oh, that's cool, Rhonda. So yeah, that's going to be, the next is going to be the toxicology and find out, like I said, we were talking earlier about Jake Reiner, and one of the things that the attorneys were saying is that he'd had this med change all of a sudden. And that part of that was because he didn't like some of the side effects. Nice. That's nice. But you probably earned you earned every single bit of that retirement. I could not work in the medical field. I said I went to school for it. I did all that fun stuff, and then I worked in a medical office for a few months. The doctor I worked with said that I was too friendly with patients. I was too friendly at the front desk because when people walked in, I said good morning. And he said that it was not my place to tell people what kind of morning they were supposed to have. Oh, then that's not good. Well, you still earned it then. You definitely earned it. But yeah, he told me that I had no business telling people what kind of morning they should have. So. Oh, ouch. Oh, you poor thing. That's no fun. I had a hair client that she worked in the shop in GM. They were moving those big machines over to like do a new line, and she ended up tripping and falling and breaking her arm, and had to have, like in two spots, had to have all these pins, and she ended up having to retire early because of it. And it just was, and she had pain. She not only broke, but she like sprained something in her shoulder and pain for the rest of her life. It was no good. No bueno. So, yeah, I don't know why these are not. I don't know why those articles would not share over. Because I'm still getting used to this new phone. I'm not quite used to it. So, but, so yeah. So that's all she wrote for tonight. So, thank you everybody for hanging out. And if you haven't, please hit the like on your way out. If you liked today's broadcast, if you didn't, give me a thumbs down. And on that note, oh yeah, I'm gonna go too. So I think I ticked Truth off. I don't see her in here anymore. So, all right. Good night, everybody.